administration that will harm our city and New Yorkers. The federal budget cuts targeting FEMA could directly impact New York City Emergency Management, a city agency that relies on nearly $110 million in federal grants. If that funding is pulled, NYSEM could lose as many as 160 positions, which represents 2/3 of the agency's workforce. This would be devastating for the workers and their families, and it would make our city less safe, less prepared for extreme weather, and less prepared for health emergencies. We rely on their expertise during moments of crisis, and without them, New Yorkers are left in a vulnerable position. The Trump administration is threatening to pull federal funding from the MTA at a time when our public transit system can least afford it. Let's be clear about what that will mean. More delays, fewer officers, and a less safe transit system for millions of New Yorkers. As I have said before, none of this is helping working families. Instead, Trump is tearing things down, undermining safety in our city and destabilizing our economy. He and Elon Musk continue to use any excuse they can to divert funding from the services that support working families to advance tax cuts for the wealthiest 1% in the country. Now let's move on to our stated agenda. First, we'll vote on the following land use items. H&H Operating Agreement. We'll approve the transfer of 8 city-owned properties to the New York City Health and Hospitals Corporation. The properties are located in the districts of Deputy Speaker Ayala and Council Members Marte, Dinowitz, Stevens, Hudson, Osei, and Banks. 581 Grand Avenue Development. An HPD application to facilitate the development of a new 7-story affordable housing building on a city-owned parking lot adjacent to the Grand Avenue A train station in Councilmember Nurse's district. These applications involve a rezoning, zoning text amendment, and UDAP designation. The proposed development will include 213 affordable rental units to be developed under the extremely low and low-income affordability term sheet. The Council is modifying the application by removing MIH Option 2 and adding MIH Option 3 for deep affordability. 123-12 Sutphin Boulevard rezoning will facilitate the development of a 5-story building with residential and community facility uses in my district. The resulting development will have 111 residential units, approximately 28 of which will be affordable under MIH Option 3 for deep affordability. The project is a collaboration between the Full Gospel Mission Church of God in Christ and SR Equities and includes 10,000 square feet of community facility space, including a new sanctuary for the church. The building will feature a rooftop recreation space, and the development team plans to collaborate with students and teachers at PS 223Q to create public artwork facing the school. 547-seat primary school facility, an acquisition by the New York City School Construction Authority of 4 privately owned lots as a proposed site for a new school in Majority Leader Farias' district. Brook 156 will amend an HPD project to permit commercial or community facility uses within a previously approved multi-family building in Councilmember Salamanca's district. West 128, 129, an HPD application to facilitate the preservation and rehabilitation of 4 city-owned buildings with 96 affordable homeownership units under the ANCP program with designation of an urban development action area project in Councilmember Salam's district. Next, we will vote on the following finance items. A preconsidered resolution sponsored by Councilmember Justin Brannan establishing a new 40-year Article 11 tax exemption for 3 lots in Councilmember Abreu's district. A preconsidered resolution also sponsored by Councilmember Brannan establishing a new 40-year Article 11 tax exemption for 1 lot in Councilmember Hudson's district. And a preconsidered resolution sponsored by Deputy Speaker Diana Ayala regarding the establishment of the East Harlem 125th Street Business Improvement District in Manhattan and setting the date, time, and place for a public hearing on its establishment. Today, we will also vote on the following pieces of legislation. Resolution 792, sponsored by Councilmember Tiffany Caban and Majority Leader Amanda Farias, declares March 25th as Greek Cultural Appreciation and Independence Day annually in the city of New York. Resolution 720A, sponsored by Councilmember Carlina Rivera, calls on the New York State Legislature to pass and the Governor to sign A50 and S 1077, known as the New York City Art Space Act, to promote the development of affordable art spaces in New York City. Resolution 721A, sponsored by Councilmember Lynn Shulman, calls on the New York State Legislature to pass and the Governor to sign S1804 and A128, legislation that would eliminate deductibles, co-payment, co-insurance, or any other cost-sharing requirements for asthma inhalers. Resolution 722A, also sponsored by Councilmember Schulman, calls upon the United States Congress to reintroduce and pass, and the President to sign H.R. 2665, supporting the Safety Net Hospitals Act to delay Medicaid disproportionate share hospital payment reductions until fiscal year 2026. Resolution 414A, sponsored by Councilmember Sandy Nurse, calls on the New York State Legislature to pass and the Governor to sign S4795A5959, requiring at least one member of the State Board of Parole be a formerly incarcerated person. Resolution 415A, sponsored by Public Advocate Jumaane Williams, calls on the New York State Legislature to pass and the Governor to sign S206A and A1432A, which would remove the lifetime ban on jury duty for convicted felons and postpone jury service for any person currently incarcerated for a felony. Resolution 417A, sponsored by Councilmember Kevin Riley, calls on the New York State Legislature to pass and the Governor to sign S4812 and A5269A, which would allow for the return of fines, restitution, and reparation payments where there was an unjust conviction in a timely manner. Resolution 730, sponsored by Councilmember Chris Banks, calls on the New York State Legislature to pass and the Governor to sign legislation to conduct a thorough study on the RAD-PAC program to assess the effects of conversion on residents and the program's impacts on tenants' rights, security, and community well-being. Resolution 731, also sponsored by Councilmember Banks, calls on the New York State Legislature to pass and the Governor to sign legislation to implement a more robust resident engagement and voting process at each NYCHA development that is considering RAD-PAC conversion. Resolution 119A, sponsored by Councilmember Crystal Hudson, calls on the New York State Legislature to pass and the Governor to sign A1621 S4098 in relation to prohibiting property owners from filing eviction proceedings for tenants who reside in buildings with substantial pending housing maintenance code violations. Resolution 246A, also sponsored by Councilmember Nurse, calls on the New York State Legislature to pass and the Governor to sign legislation requiring unlawful eviction cases to be heard within 5 days. Resolution 524A, sponsored by Councilmember Kevin Riley, would call on the New York State Legislature to pass and the Governor to sign S126 in relation to legal representation in certain mortgage foreclosure actions. Next, we will vote on a pair of bills to expand services for people living with HIV. Resolution 175A, sponsored by Councilmember Chiosei, calls on the New York State Legislature to pass and the Governor to sign S442A. 3355, which would amend the social services law to mandate each local department of social services to link persons living with HIV with benefits and services. It would provide that persons living with HIV who are receiving housing assistance shall not be required to pay more than 30% of household income towards shelter costs. Introduction 1194A, sponsored by Councilmember Lynn Schulman, would codify the eligibility of HIV/AIDS services to include any person living with HIV. I now invite Councilmember Schulman to the podium to discuss her legislation.
Sorry, I needed a box so I can, so you can see me. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. I am Councilmember Lynn Schulman, Chair of the Health Committee and the proud sponsor of Introduction 1194A. Today, the Council is taking a historic step to ensure that every New Yorker living with HIV has access to the vital support and services they need. By expanding eligibility for the HIV/AIDS Services Administration, also known as HACA, we are breaking down outdated barriers and aligning our policies with the reality of modern HIV care, because early intervention and comprehensive support save lives. For too long, many people living with HIV have been denied the housing, nutrition, and case management services that can make the difference between stability and crisis. This legislation is about dignity, equity, and our ongoing commitment to ending the HIV epidemic in New York City. I want to thank Speaker Adrienne Adams for her leadership, Deputy Speaker and General Welfare Chair Diana Ayala, my colleagues in the Council for their support, and the tireless advocates who have fought for this change. Together, we are making New York a place where no one is left behind. Thank you.
Thank you. I was just going to kick it to the side. Just do that very, very gracefully. Next, Introduction 1047B, sponsored by Councilmember Sean Abreu, would require the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene or another agency designated by the mayor to establish a 3-year pilot program that provides access to sleep apnea screenings at no cost, as well as access to home sleep apnea tests, if deemed appropriate. This bill would also require DOHMH to prioritize the individuals without insurance. I invite Councilmember Abreu to discuss his legislation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Wake up! We're talking about sleep apnea. I have it. My mom has it. Adrian has it, she says. 30 million Americans have it, and 80% of them don't know that they have it. Today, the Council will vote on my legislation to ensure New Yorkers know about the risks of sleep apnea and can access affordable screenings and treatment. For far too many in our city, sleep apnea affects our quality of life, health, and ability to work. The effects of untreated sleep apnea can be severe, leading to heart disease, stroke, and fatigue. Nobody wants their bus driver or their child's teacher to be tired and struggling, yet we've done almost nothing to address sleep apnea in this city. Today, that ends. I want to thank the advocates and the medical professionals who have worked tirelessly on this issue. I'm particularly grateful to Speaker Adams for her continued leadership on this important matter. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you.
Wake up.
Wake up. Finally, we will vote on a package of legislation to reform the rules governing sidewalk sheds. For too long, the dull green scaffolding that towers over miles of our city sidewalks have been a fixture in our streetscape. These structures are not just eyesores that cover up buildings, they're also a blight that impacts our public safety. Today's legislative reforms are long overdue, and I'm proud that under this council we are finally taking action to address these challenges. Introduction 661A, sponsored by Councilmember Eric Bottcher, strengthens enforcement of facade repairs by introducing penalties for failure to submit construction documents to the Department of Buildings, file necessary permit applications, and complete repairs. Introduction 660A, also sponsored by Councilmember Bottcher, would double the required level of lighting under sidewalk sheds from the 45 lumens per watt or greater to 90 lumens per watt or greater. It would require that lighting under sidewalk sheds be LED lights. I invite Councilmember Bottcher to the podium to discuss this important legislation.
Thank you so much, Speaker Adams, for your leadership. Thank you to Councilmember Keith Powers for your leadership. New Yorkers don't agree on a lot, but one thing we can all agree on is that we all hate the fact that over 400 miles of New York City sidewalks are covered by sidewalk scaffolding. We all have sidewalk scaffolding in our neighborhood that's been up for years and years and years. And for a long time, New Yorkers have just been told that's how it is. Deal with it. We're not dealing with it. We're not just going to live that way. We came up with legislation today to reform the sidewalk shed system. I have 2 bills in this package. One bill will establish time limits for property owners to pull the permits and do the work. No more leaving your sidewalk shed up forever with no penalties. The other bill I have will increase the lighting requirements under the sidewalk sheds. And some of you may have seen the memes about gay men hating overhead lighting. They are 100% accurate. If I come to your home, I will turn off your overhead lighting and I will turn on every lamp in your home. The one overhead lighting that I do like is under sidewalk sheds. So what we're doing is increasing the lumens per watt. We're updating the regulations because technology has evolved. We now have LED light strips that can better illuminate an area more energy efficiently. We're updating the lighting requirements. This is going to have real impacts for New Yorkers all over the city, and I'm so proud to be part of this effort.
Very good. I didn't know that about the lighting thing, Eric. Introduction 394A, sponsored by Councilmember Keith Powers, would require DOB to complete a study and review the frequency of the facade inspection and safety program and recommend changes to the council by December 31st, 2025. This bill would also extend the inspection cycle from every 5 years to a longer interval time between 6 to 12 years. Introduction 393A, also sponsored by Councilmember Powers, would require the duration of sidewalk shed permits for facade repairs from 1 year to 3 months unless they are connected to demolition, a building alteration, or new building construction. This bill would also create new penalties for property owners who delay necessary repairs for sidewalk sheds occupying the public right-of-way. Finally, Introduction 391A, sponsored by Councilmember Powers, would require DOB to complete a study and recommend new sidewalk shed designs by September 30th, 2025. This bill would also allow more color options for sheds, require corresponding construction fences to match the color of the sidewalk shed, increase lighting beneath sidewalk sheds, and raise the minimum height of sidewalk sheds to 12 feet, except in areas where it exists. Light or ventilation would be obstructed. Except in areas where exits, light, or ventilation would be obstructed. I invite Councilmember Powers to the podium to discuss his important legislation. Finally,
Thank you. Thank you so much, and good afternoon, and thank you, everyone. Today, New York City is taking a historic measure to shed the sheds and end the scaffolding that has cast a shadow over our city for too long. I'm proud to say the City Council is finally taking steps to modernize the city's approach to sidewalk sheds. I want to thank Speaker Adams for her leadership and support on this very important issue. I also want to acknowledge my colleague Eric Botcher for his bills and want to congratulate him as well, and thank our Manhattan Borough President Mark Levine, who helped us launch this effort just a few years ago. We all know sidewalk sheds. They are a feature of New York City's landscape. Love them or hate them. I hate them. But they do provide an important cover around safety, and we always want to acknowledge that. In 1979, Grace Gold, who was a student at Barnard, was tragically lost her life because of work that should have been done on a building. And so we want to always protect and maintain those measures. But standing with her sister today, we heard a clear acknowledgement that New York City can move forward in a way that modernizes our laws, and that's what we're here to do today. We have over 1,000 sidewalk sheds standing up there today that have been there for over 3 years. But if you walk around even blocks from here, you'll see ones that have been up for 8 years, 10 years, 15 years, ones that clearly work should have been done years ago, and we have failed to modernize or update our laws to incentivize that work to get done. There is something for everyone in this package of legislation. For small businesses, when scaffolding goes up, you now have assurances that it will come down quickly and you will get your foot traffic back. For our neighbors in our neighborhoods, you'll finally get bright lighting and safe streets on your block rather than the dark alleyways that exist here today. For property owners, you are getting relief from being saddled with the costly work that seems to never end. For all New Yorkers, you get to finally enjoy your amazing city and see the skyline and the beauty of this city. For our public housing residents, we are reducing the amount of scaffolding that needs to go up every single time work needs to be done, meaning you will have safer and brighter and better neighborhoods. For everybody who has joined us in this conversation, Councilmember Botcher is correct to say if you walk in any room, it's almost universal amongst New Yorkers that they are sick and tired of the Hunter Green. So there's some good news. Number one is the Hunter Green is no longer the only option. You can use an assortment of colors now to decorate your scaffolding when it goes up. But when it goes up, we're also going to ask you to take it down quicker by mandating that you actually do the work and you show us the work that is happening along the way. And in exchange for all of that, we're also going to extend the window when work needs to be done. So rather than the one-size-fits-all approach, every 5 years for every building, a new building, an old building, no matter what the materials are, we are now going to allow a much bigger window for buildings and a lot more flexibility, so less scaffolding has to go up in the first place. These are all really important design changes for the city of New York that that will mean that we will meet our safety needs while also looking like every other city that does not have the skyline filled with sheds and scaffolding. We are just significantly proud of the work we've done here to make sure we can find that right balance. I want to thank the speaker staff and the legislative staff who worked with us tirelessly to get this right till the very end. I want to thank Haley and Ben and Emma in my office who did a lot of conversations and late night aging and getting the bill to the right place to make sure that it met all the needs of New Yorkers. But good news here is today New York City is going to shed the sheds and finally give our neighborhoods back to our New Yorkers. Thanks, everyone. Okay.
Good stuff. All right. That concludes our stated agenda, and with that, we will take on topic questions.
Questions on the bills? Or you're covering. You have a question on the bills?
I do. I guess, do you guys have an estimate about how much this is going to cost in terms of just, like, redesigning some of these sheds? And do you guys have some plans on how to, like, design them or?
Oh, go ahead.
We're offering a lot more flexibility. So for now on, anybody who wants to put it up, they can opt for different colors. Higher heights, by the way, we're going to move up to 12 feet rather than 8 feet, so it's not so claustrophobic. Put the lighting underneath. Some of those changes are going to happen over time, and I'm not sure there's going to be a total cost associated. And the cost is going to be on a lot of the providers to make sure they can update and provide new options and flexibility. On the cost, though, one of the things we're trying to do for the property owners is extend it from 5 to even up to 12 years, but probably 6, 7, 8 for many, so that they don't have to do the work nearly as much to try to find that right balance. So we think for property owners, it's going to save a lot of money, put money back in the economy for our small business owners, and we're going to have to make some design changes. But some of it comes with flexibility, so they can opt in and make the changes they need to make. Some are going to have to be a change, switch over to like higher and taller, and those we'll have to work with the stakeholders on that. Yep.
Could the business choose, like, what kind of, like, could they say, oh, I want, like, white scaffolding instead of green scaffolding, or, like, I want higher, or I want lower?
I mean, the property owner can and opt in for that and work with the riggers who put it up for that. But I don't know if the small business owner can underneath it. But certainly, what we'd hope is that the property owners and small businesses will be able to work together on visibility, on signage, and of course on colors to make it a lot more attractive, and also put the lighting and raise the height of it so when you walk under it, it doesn't feel so gritty, it doesn't feel like an alleyway. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, any other questions on bills? We'll do option.
Oh.
On the bill, actually. I know.
On the bill, Colton in the ninth inning.
I haven't been following this
Yeah.
scaffolding fight much. I assume that there's people that saying this is about safety, and now bricks are going to fall on everyone's heads, and that's horrible. What's the response to that? I mean, isn't scaffolding about bricks not falling on their heads?
Look, it's about, we stood with Grace Gold, who was the young woman who lost her life in 1979, stood with her sister today in support of both the safety and the need to redesign. Some of the things we're doing are going to just redesign them so they're a lot nicer, and the Department of Buildings is now tasked with the responsibility of figuring out how to differentiate between different type of buildings. For instance, a new building that goes up today that has been passed inspections, been permitted, licensed, and built, we don't believe that needs to be 5 years, one size fits all. There may be buildings that are built with terracotta or other materials where you want to do a tighter timeline, and there's going to still be allowances for the Department of Buildings to hold on to that. So the goal here is to find the flexibility and be a bit more nuanced in our approach to it. And of course, the other key component of that is that no matter what, when it goes up, get the work done. We don't want them sitting there for a decade languishing. The one we were standing in front of today was up there for over 8 years. And as I said, as term limits are coming for the scaffolding too, after 8 years, it's got to come down. So what we're saying is, and this is a really important piece of it, is we want the safety, but we also want you to do the work to repair it and make it safe, by the way, so that you can take it down and we can have our neighborhoods back.
Okay, were you good to go off topic? Great, Councilmembers, yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. Stuff.
Okay, off topic, Bob, go ahead.
So, Bob Henley with WBAI, I would
Yes.
advise my colleagues to identify themselves because we broadcast this live, very old school, to our listeners. So with all due respect about sidewalk sheds, and I've done my share of investigations, there's some deep pockets that like those sheds to stay up.
Sure.
That get rent, and there's all kinds of costs and all kinds of pushback that you get from holding them accountable. But we're sitting in a country where right now we have what we could call the Trump-Musk junta, where an unelected person now is actually defining the terms and conditions that the city of New York and other municipalities and states are operating under, including massive cuts that you just described. Can you understand that people listening at home, who are maybe 600,000, one of the 600,000 green card holders, who are worried that in a moment's instance they're going to be shipped to El Salvador? Like, are you concerned that this doesn't match the circumstance of what's happening in the national crisis?
You know, what is happening now from the federal government is truly chaos. And, you know, since the start of his presidency, Trump and his co-president, Elon Musk, and their congressional allies have undermined critical federal agencies. They've proposed defunding health care and food assistance and other critical services. And they've stolen $80 million from the city of New York. They've announced tariffs, rescinded them, and then re-announced them again, weakening the economy and bringing retaliatory tariffs on the American people. This may even affect our tourism prospects with Canada, from what I'm understanding right now. And now they're actually moving to eliminate the Department of Education, an essential partner to localities to ensure all students are educated. So none of this is helping to make life more affordable for the families of our city and our nation. His agenda, quite frankly, is to sow chaos and fear. It is happening. I've spoken to people. People are fearful, frantic, and it's hurting communities, small businesses, workers, and local economies. Our job is going to be to stand up, to continue to speak out, not to be afraid of this bully. New Yorkers know how to fight bullies. I certainly do. So it's going to be incumbent upon us to continue to fight this bully.
As a follow-up, if I may, New York City is kind of the legal center of the world. White shoe law firms, very prominent, supporting all kinds of philanthropies. Right now, one by one, the big white shoe law firms that have been targeted by executive orders by the president, as having represented Democrats or organizations he doesn't like. And the legal community doesn't have the consciousness of labor unions. They're not sticking together, Speaker. And they're all going, it seems, falling one by one on their knee to what is our modern day dictator. Shouldn't they stand up and at least have the consciousness of, like, local unions, or to protect the republic? Because they've made so much wealth off of the United States.
Yeah, I think it falls a line into my first response is that anybody worth their salt should be standing up against this bully, fighting for the precepts of this country, and fighting against Donald Trump, who proclaims to want to be a king, which we cannot allow in this country. So I believe that we all need to stand up and speak out against this, you know, what is turning into, you know, such an office of tyranny and authoritarianism.
Speaker, the Common Sense Caucus and a bunch of others filed this lawsuit against City of Yes last night. Just wanted to get your response on that.
Yeah, you know, when I first became Speaker, I said over and over again to my colleagues that we can never be the council that says no to people who need a place to live. I stand on that. I haven't really seen the full details and won't comment on the lawsuit itself, but I'm going to refer you to the city's law department for that part. Our city is in need of housing. Obviously, it's at the top of everybody's list. New Yorkers need housing for our city to be affordable. And again, we can't say no to people who need a place to live.
Yes. Two questions. One, now that you're running for mayor, how will that impact negotiating a budget with Mayor Adams, who you're now running against? How are you navigating that? And my second question, on the lawsuit, the council was named as a defendant. As leader of the council, was there any communications that you had with members of the caucus who are filing the lawsuit? Did you try to deal with this outside of court before it got to this point?
I haven't had any conversations, and again, the law department would be, you know, most appropriate to relay that question to. As far as negotiating the budget, the fourth, which I'm excited about, actually negotiating this fourth city budget. We're all professionals, in what we do and the way that we legislate and the way that we lead the city. I'm particularly proud of our record in the council and what we have done and our successes in the city budget. I don't expect this year to be any different, regardless of, positions, whatever we're doing. Myself, the mayor, we're working, for the benefit of the people of New York. And this budget, once again, we're going to come together to create a budget that is equitable for the people.
The state budget, it's crunch time, it's coming up soon. Are there any top priorities for you and the council that you want to see in the state budget? And do you feel like Mayor Adams and his administration are properly, negotiating for the city on that level, or would you like to see something different?
We're of course working with our state partners. We continue to do that. There is money that we believe belongs, and Councilmember Schulman, who left, she would love to hear me talk about this. The funding that is not going to H&H where we need it to go is still being held by the state, and we're hoping that that is taken care of in the state budget. That is a very serious priority for us.
Yeah. Are you or the council actively lobbying on that, or are you kind of relying on state legislators to? Well, I guess are you lobbying?
I have personally lobbied for that. Yeah, 10 Cup Day, had that cup out. Yeah, personally.
Yes, I'm Sophia from Streets Blog. So there was a draft bill that circulated about a month ago. It was released from City Hall about overhauling the app delivery industry. I'm just curious, I understand that the bill, isn't introduced yet, but I'm wondering, what your thoughts are on it. Do you see it as a good starting point for regulating this industry that's just growing? Some New Yorkers see it as out of control. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts are on the bill. Like you said, it's not introduced yet, so it has several iterations to go through. We're going to take a look at it, see what works and what doesn't work. Obviously, there are some things to fine tune as far as the business is concerned, and as a council, we're going to come together to figure that part out.
Do you have any timeline updates on when you think the bill will be introduced, or any specifics on what you see as good pieces of that legislation or bad?
I don't. It is still going through the legislative process. Time will tell. Hearings will tell. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay.
All right. Thanks, everybody.